I came across this really cool video tutorial by, I think it's Blender Cookie, showing how you can draw bump maps in Blender, sort of in real time on your model or on your UV if you want to. And you can get some really nice, pretty crisp lines doing this. And sometimes it's a little inaccurate. Oftentimes it's just me. And I thought, if you wanted to see how to do that, I searched around for some video tutorials explaining the setup. And I think some people are charging for the course to show that. And there's a couple of videos, but they're either really quick or a little bit hard to understand. So if you think that this is kind of a cool technique, and you can then just use this or save this as an image and apply it as a bump map or a displacement map with very low poly. I mean, right now this is 256 faces, and if I arrayed this or used it multiple times, it would add up. But you can use this and have very, very low poly and get kind of a cool effect. I'm not a very good artist, as you can tell, but if you're interested in something like this, I could show you. I'll show you how to set it up. All right, and I'll show you how to use it. Just doing this stuff real quick. You can take as much time as you want to get a real nice effect. All right, so I'll show you how to set that up. Okay, so I'm in a brand new scene, and I'm gonna get my screencast keys going. Just leave them like that. All right, I'm gonna delete the camera. I'm gonna delete the cube, and I like to turn this the lamp into a sun just so we can see this a little bit better. I'll leave everything else the same. I'm gonna go to the 7 and 5 and Shift A and put down a plane, and S3, scale it 3 times, and then I'll apply scale. All right. Now we're going to have to subdivide this to give us the geometry to work with. So I'm going to bring this up to 4 and switch it to simple, and I'll keep it square, and I'm just going to apply. So now I've got a good amount of geometry in there. We need to make a UV map, so I'm just going to split my screen here, change this to UV image editor, and I'm going to click new and change this to bump paint. We're going to paint the bump map. I'll leave it at that resolution there, but this is important. Switch this black color to an intermediate color, keeping in mind that white is for raised areas and black is for recessed or depressed areas. So we want something roughly in the middle there, and just go OK. All right. Now let's go into edit mode in this screen here and hit U, and I'm going to project from view bounds, and I'm going to fill up the whole area. Okay, back into object mode, and now with this plane selected, I'm going to create a material. Just go new. By the way, we are doing this in the Blender renderer, the internal Blender internal, not in Cycles, but I'll show you how to use the finished product in Cycles later. So we just make it in Blender renderer. Okay, so we made a material, and now we click on the texture tab, create a new texture, and call it bump paint. Same thing. All right. The image we're going to use is the one we just created, bump paint, and we did it over there. And you can pretty much leave everything else the same, except down here, turn off color. We don't need the color data, and turn on normal. All right, we're almost ready to paint. Switch over to material for this, and actually, while we're here in the material tab, I'm just going to change this to a cool kind of yellowish gold, and switch over to texture paint. All right, so that'll bring up your texture paint tools. I'm going to pull this down a bit. All right, so I'm just getting used to this stuff, so I'm not an expert at it, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to switch the radius. You can just click here and enter a number if you want to switch it to 12, or you can hit F and you can bring your mouse in and out. So that's good enough, and bring the strength up to 1. Okay, so we're going to paint, and by the way, you can click on this and choose choose these. We'll do some of that later, but just choose this text draw for now. White, if I draw on my actual model here, I'll go ahead and do that. Oh, and by the way, before I do that, come down to stroke, and you can choose the stroke method. Choose line for now. All right, so if I and if I hold Alt, it'll constrain it to 45-degree angles. So if I click and drag and hold Alt, I get a straight line. Okay. White is high and black is low. So I'm just going to switch it here, and we'll have a look at the difference here. Okay, so that's recessed in, and this is protruding. So what you could do is just click and hold the Alt in, and you get a recessed line. Then experiment, click, drag, hold Alt, and see if the corners match up. That's not bad. Okay, we'll go again, click and hold Alt to maybe there. Okay, maybe I don't like that one. I'll do it again. All right, good enough for the purpose of this. And notice you're painting right on the UVs. Well, you're painting on the model, but it's showing up in the UVs, and later on we'll paint on the UVs itself. I'm going to hold Alt, and I'm going to go up on an angle, 45-degree angle, to do that, and then I'll just join it up like that. Okay, so this is all recessed in, and then there's a high area there, and I'll just put those little things. I'll hold Alt, and I'll do that. Or you could go F and switch your brush size down a little bit, and then do that if that works, or you think that looks better to you. Now, if I want to get rid of this raised region here, I can come down in the UVs and switch from View to Paint, and hit T, and that'll open up the toolbar here, and I get the same tools. I'm going to switch over to Fill. I'm going to fill in this area, but with what color? Well, I'm going to color pick. Choose that, and the eyedropper, I'm going to color pick that exact same color. All right, and then make sure you turn the strength all the way up, and then just click in there, and that'll fill it in, but it'll leave a couple of little lines here, so I can come back. I can go back to just View here. I'm going to come back up here, and I'm going to switch back to Text Draw, and I'm going to just call Paint, Alt, and so go over those lines. I can change my brush size a little bit to get a little bit more of that. Come down like that, go all the way around it. So I'm getting rid of that. Well, I don't need to do that. Hold Alt, that, maybe a bit more. And I think maybe I need a little bit more here. See if I got it. All right, and then if you want to put dots, just come down to the stroke again and switch over to dots and experiment with this. So right now I'm on dark black, so that's going to give me an indentation. So maybe I want indentations on the outside here. All right, but my brush size is pretty big. Maybe that. And by the way, there is symmetry. You can go say symmetry in the X. So if I just click there, I'll put one over there, and click there, I'll put one over there. Okay, and I believe I can do both at the same time, so I can do this, that kind of thing. All right, let's say that was fine with what you wanted. I'll turn that off. All right, and if I want a raised dot in here, I just do that or drag it up, and I can just by hand I can put them in. I don't know how realistic this looks, but you know, they're not perfectly lined up. But at any rate, that's, you know, what you get when you draw it this way. Okay, now I can use this in the same project. Let's go back to object mode. All right, and I won't get rid of this yet. I can use this in the same project, but I've already got a number of faces. So if I go and I start, you know, arraying this, you know, the faces go up every time. All right. If I want to use it in another project, in another file, if I just come down here and go save as image, All right, I call it I guess just bump paint. All right, I'll start a brand new one. I'll get rid of the camera. I'll get rid of the cube. I'll turn my light into a sun because I just find it easier to see. All right, I'll bring in a plane. I like to go S3 just for the size for this, but I'll apply scale. Okay, so that I'm at 1 here, and okay, that's cool. I'm not subdividing it or anything. It's just the same size as the other one, so I won't have any problems with that. And now what we'll do is we're going to switch over to Cycles Render, and I'm going to put on GPU Compute, and whatever, let's just go into the node editor. Okay, switch this over to a node editor, close that up, and let's I don't know, new node, whatever. Okay, so it puts on a diffuse color. Maybe I want that yellowish orange, and I'll switch this over to material. Okay, so here's what we do now. Shift A, bring in texture and image texture. We're going to open up that file we had, UV, it was called Bump Paint. All right, so we've opened it up here. It's non-color data. All right, it's just a bump map. Okay, and we are going to connect the color to the displacement of the material output. All right, if I switch to Shift Z, by the way, we don't see anything happening as of yet. So well, let's carry on. Shift A again, and we're going to come into Input and Texture Coordinate. All right, we're going to use that texture coordinate, and we're going to connect generated to vector, and now we're going to see that, and look how many faces I've got. All right, and this is what we have so far. Now we can do a little bit more. I mean, if you want to experiment with different the typical kind of setups, you can add a mix shader and a glossy shader and do stuff depending on what it is you want to do and what color you want it. Let's say you want it black or dark or something like that. Get that over there. Silver or something like silver. Anyhow, just leaving it like that for the moment. Let's just make sure I'm in ortho view like that. And now let's go ahead and array it. Not that this would be a great thing to array like that, but if I do it that way, and then I also array it in the Y, this is the same way. You can see that I've got very few faces, and I've got my bump map on there. It looks pretty convincing. All right, so hope that helps get you started with that.